Debts are destroying nations, but it's not the government's debt itself that is the only problem. We have personal debt at all-time highs right now, and we're going to get into a video that is extremely important today, why you must pay off your debt before the collapse. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Let's get into this right here. A lot to cover. I'm just going to go into it briefly as always, and this is multifaceted. So let's get into this first. Return of the debtor's prison. Many still jailed for inability to pay fines. This is out of PBS. Cities across the country are increasingly turning to what are known as private probation companies to collect unpaid fines. But are these poor people ending up in jail because they can't afford to pay? Now, this is quite interesting just to think about it, that if you cannot afford to pay your fine, they're going to send you to jail. Now, I'm going to extrapolate and extend on this in a moment. Let's just stick to the facts at hand right here, and we're going to talk about how this is a very, very serious issue, even if it's not directly affecting you right now. So, one example here, Human Rights Watch estimates that in Georgia alone, probation companies take in at least $40 million in revenues from fees they charge to probationers. This is a system that they've set up in order to generate profits, and they're doing so very, very well because profits are at an all-time high, not just in the big corporations, but also in the big governments. So we're seeing $40 million in revenues in Georgia alone, but you look at statistics in other cities around the world where we have, for example, Toronto earns $90 million on parking tickets alone. When you have a city that only has a few million people in it and it's able to generate $90 million in revenue, you have to start asking questions where exactly this money's all going, because it's not lifting up the lower and middle classes, that's for sure. We've seen that statistically. So let's dig in further. Right here, out of the ACLU, this is just one example I picked out here, Marietta Connor, and basically she had an issue and had to pay a fine, but of course she couldn't afford to pay the fine. So they really run her through the system, and you can read her story for yourself, but that's not important. What I wanted to show you was that they make it very complex, they make it complicated for people to deal with their debt issues, and of course it puts them further into debt, whether it's legal fees or whatever it might be. There's always some more red tape to follow through. The government itself runs into this issue here, where we have Congress, for example, always running into the issue of their own debt problems with controlling the power of the purse. It's pretty interesting to see this, but let's go into more of these examples, where we have this Ohio mother of two sentenced to 10 days in jail and placed on 3 years probation after sending her kids to a school district in which they did not live. This is another interesting story here. But what you need to understand from this is that these individuals are being jailed for crimes that are very petty in most cases, and they are being put behind bars. I'm not going to get into the details of the story, but just one more example. This here, Toronto fire hydrants earned $24 million in parking tickets since 2008. Just the fire hydrants alone in a city of Toronto that only has a few million people in it, and it's generating mega dollars for the city. But why isn't the city using that money efficiently in order to support the middle and lower classes? We know that it specifically does not. In the US, the same situation is going on here, but instead of lifting up the lower and middle class, they just expand the welfare systems. They continue to increase the amount of food stamps they give out instead of finding a way to fix the problem. Of course, fixing the problem was never the intention. Again, out of the ACLU, this is the big one you want to read definitely. At least go in and flip through it. It is very interesting. In for a penny, the rise of America's new debtors' prisons. If I move into the article here, this report shows you different examples from different areas of the U.S. And I just pick out one here in talking about Louisiana, Michigan. But we see that individuals who are put in jail for different reasons, whether or not that might be a very serious crime or not a serious crime at all. We see them for very small amounts end up in the jail system. Now, they may only end up in there for, let's say, 30 days, for example, but it still goes to show you that they're being put in the jails for these minimal crimes, whether it's not paying their fees on time or whether it's some small thing that really isn't that significant, in order to find their way into the jail system and have that on the record. See, when you have a certain record like this, you're gonna have a hard time getting a job in the future, and this ultimately puts you into the college of crime. They can't find a way to earn money through legal means. People end up doing it illegally. I'm not justifying that. I'm just saying that statistically. So we're going to move on to what I wrote about in my book, where it's not just the individual people that have this problem. It is the governments itself that have built up way too much debt. So you look at this example from my book in the diagram, where I'm showing you the US and the Fed doing their nice little exchange. The US sells its debt to the Fed. The US gives the Fed IOUs, and the Fed gives it back some real or paper cash. And then the Fed is left with a pile of IOUs. That's the same thing that individuals do when they have it on their credit cards or the debt that they owe, credit lines, and so on and so forth. And you have the Federal Reserve printing up the currency, fiat currency, out of nowhere in order to pay for this. So what we're seeing here is a multifaceted issue. It's the individuals, it's the cities, the states or provinces, and the governments in general, federally, that have this problem of too much debt. It is not being solved. So what exactly is the solution that they are going to provide? Remember, there is always a solution ready before the problem is put out there. Undeniably, everyone will agree that there's too much debt right now. Even if you're a Keynesian economist, no matter what, you agree, right now at this point, there's too much debt. Now, of course, the solution to that is arguable. But let's go into what I believe the solution that will be provided, that will be very detrimental to every single person in this world. Look at this. I'm talking about the IMF's SDR. Now, I'm not specifically saying that they're going to go ahead and use the SDR, but when you have a problem with the currency, when you have too much debt that has been accumulated, you need to find out what to do with it. So oftentimes, they end up going on a new currency system. We've seen this happen multiple times in history before. It is technically overdue right now. And there is a lot of talk of using the SDR as the new currency to back all of our currencies. Jim Rickards has talked about this extensively. The Chinese have mentioned it as well. And just in general, you hear it in the mainstream media being brought up as a viable currency to back our currencies. People think that you're going to be holding SDR notes in your hand. That's not the way this works. It's just going to be backing our currency. But of course, it then becomes a maximum level of manipulation. So when we exchange our debt onto this new currency system that they're going to put us onto, whether it's the SDR or whether it's something else, they're going to have to revalue all of the existing debt. So my concern is that we do not know what's going to happen at this point. If you're in debt, you basically have a level of uncertainty. This level of uncertainty is going to mean a big problem for you if you have any debts, whether that's a mortgage, whether that's loans. I believe people in debt will be further burdened by their debt on the new currency system. It's not going to be wiped off the map. That's what a lot of people made that big mistake about. They believe that somehow I'll accumulate as much debt as possible now, whether it's to buy something of value or whether it's to buy things that are useless. They believe I'll get the debt now because it's all going to be wiped out in some sort of debt jubilee, and we are going to have a prosperous future. I do believe that at some point in the future there will be prosperity, but there's going to be hard times ahead before that happens. We haven't faced those hard times yet, despite the fact that it is really bad right now. So what I'm concerned about most is that those individuals who have debt right now and they're perhaps thinking about buying precious metals, buying real estate. I get emails all the time, and this is a concern of mine because I try to tell people using my own examples or just using good information not to go down this route. You need to worry about the debts that you have. Pay them down first. Pay all of your debts down first. Then when you have left over, you can then use that to buy things like precious metals or land or real estate or what have you. Sure, you may want to have a little bit, but I definitely do not recommend holding on to too much. It is not a good idea because of the level of uncertainty in the future. That's what we need to really pay attention to. So just to close off on this, I would definitely say that we are going to be heading for a new sort of currency system. You may be using the exact same dollars you are now. However, their backing might be on something like an SDR. In this new system, we are going to have an exchange of debt, a revaluation of the currencies, something along these lines. In doing so, the people of the world are going to be more heavily burdened by their debt. If you don't have any debt, you're going to be less burdened by it. If you hold real assets, of course, you're going to be in good standings. That's why I say we have to watch out what we're doing in this future. I hope that you enjoyed this video and found it informative. I really try to make these deep, intelligent videos for you guys, try to get the information out there and try to spread it as far and wide as it will go. I want to talk to you about the Money GPS. We're in 2015 today. It is January 1st, 2015, and Happy New Year to everyone out there. I want to say thank you to all of you. This channel has grown considerably in just the recent past. I want to say hello to all the new subscribers out there. It is very amazing to get all of your emails, such great comments that I'm getting, all of the constructive criticism as well. I always appreciate that. I appreciate all of the positivity that I'm getting and all of the concern as well. I did do something to the channel recently. Have no fear. I removed about a few hundred videos from the channel because as we go on through 2015 and onward, I need to watch out about the content that's on here. So a few of my videos did have pictures that I use from online, and technically YouTube can shut me down for that instance there. So I just went ahead and I had to remove them. I made a backup copy and I have it offline so that that information is saved. However, I didn't want to risk anything right now. This information is too important. The channel has grown to a level where I realize now how important the Money GPS is. Not David Quintiri, but the information that I'm sharing here at the Money GPS. So I want to commit to that through 2015 and on. So I'm just going to go through and remove a bunch of the videos that may contain content from other websites, and I really don't want to have to risk anything. So I'm just going to remove that, and we're going to continue to make videos as I have been doing over the past year, where I just use my own content. All the pictures that you see up there are from something I've taken myself, and you may see them repeat over and over again, but have no fear. If you are on here, you're here for the content, not for the images. I realize that. Just hang in there, stay with me, and you will get excellent information as always. Thank you to everyone, each and every one of you, and I will be continuously bringing out these videos. I try to do one every single day if I can, and I know that you appreciate my efforts here. Thank you. And I will just say one last thing. Please become an insider. I get tons of emails on the insiders. In fact, I just replied to everyone yesterday, spent all the way up until 11 p.m. just before New Year's to reply to everyone, just to say hello, try to give my insights, try to give my advice. And basically, I just want to know that if you email me at the insiders, you're going to get first priority. So that's one reason to get on there. If YouTube shuts me down, that's another reason to get on the insiders. But all in all, it's there to get the best free information. So if you're not already on there, just go to themoneygps.com. You scroll down to the bottom, fill in your email address, and you get occasional emails from me with good, short, concise info.